After 6 months of waiting, 2 long-awaited loans are finally done, meaning that the club can register some players, or at least they can in theory. Sergio Aguero retiring was enough to get Dani Alves and his league minimum salary registered. However, it took Coutinho to Aston Villa on loan to finally get Ferran Torres registered. Or at least, at time of recording, we're still waiting on that. It's still 50-50. Things might have changed by the time you're watching this. But all things indicate from the club and Matteo Alemany that Ferran Torres will be registered by Sunday, even though he can't play for a little while longer after testing positive. If Ferran Torres is registered by Sunday, I'm just pleased that both Alemany and Xavi seem to generally mean exactly what they say, and that makes my job a whole lot easier. Being able to take the sporting director and the manager at face value and take their words literally means that when the times when I'm not in front of the camera and everything goes haywire, I know that at least we have a semblance of an understanding of what's going on. So we did already talk about Torres and his arrival. Check that video out if you haven't just yet. But we haven't had the proper space to say goodbye to Coutinho. In addition, Collado is finally on the move to Granada, where it seemed like he was going to be for about a month now. But we should also speak about that loan, because that one, Collado's, is an entirely different circumstance than Coutinho's. Alright, so let's start with our old friend Coutinho. I don't think, for those who've been with me for a while now, actually since his signing, which it was about 6-7 months after this podcast even began, I don't need to tell you anything that you already haven't heard from me about Philippe Coutinho at Barcelona. If you are watching this video, here are the things that you know, and I think the things that have generally just become fact for everybody, that being manager and those in the Barcelona entorno as well. Coutinho was Barca's most expensive ever signing, 120 million euros, plus an additional 40 million in add-ons back in January of 2018. And as much as him being the largest transfer fee in history is bad, the amortization of his contract, meaning what was broken up and paid to Liverpool over the course of the contract, has been so much worse than just a giant flat fee. That's why Barca has had to work so hard to even get him on a 6-month loan. It's come out that Alemany wanted this 6-month loan to Aston Villa to be 18 months, which would have been the rest of his contract, which ends in the summer of 2023. And more importantly, it would have, for Barcelona, guaranteed that most of his wages would be dealt with and the money owed would be known, instead of having to do this whole song and dance again over the summer. But you never know, maybe with just 1 year left on his contract instead of a year and a half, somebody might bite. And that somebody could be Aston Villa, because there is a 40 million euro buy option that has been reported on the back of this loan deal. But will Aston Villa spend that on a player who made 106 total appearances for Barca in 4 seasons, plus a cup of coffee with Bayern Munich? He scored 26 goals for the Blaugrana in those 4 seasons. Not necessarily a ringing endorsement. I don't need to rehash him not fitting at Barca. He was brought to be a midfielder, but in a 4-4-2. He never fit with Jordi Alba, never fit with Lionel Messi, and certainly, at the end of his time at Barcelona, doesn't fit in Xavi's system. He's not a wide winger, and he also isn't one of those high interiors that's going to have all those defensive and multifaceted responsibilities that Coutinho just doesn't have in his game, and that's okay. The question at Aston Villa is, can his old Liverpool teammate Steven Gerrard turn things around for him? Coutinho, on paper at least, does add something to Aston Villa and could be useful for Gerrard. My guess is that Gerrard moves him back into the middle of the park in a 4-3-3, where Gerrard likes to use an attacking midfielder. It's currently 20-year-old Jacob Ramsey, or the combination of Morgan Sanson and John McGinn, who are both good on both sides of the ball, but not necessarily the attacking forces that Coutinho is. The 2 big stars that Villa has up top are Buendia and Ollie Watkins, not necessarily household names, and Danny Ings knocking in a few goals too. If Coutinho can have a good partnership with that trio, being relied on to create some offense for them instead of getting in the way like he did with Alba and Messi, Coutinho is still one of the greatest playmakers of the last decade. Brazil makes magic, and Coutinho is still one of the country's top attacking threats. And for Coutinho's sake, it also made sense for him to reduce his salary to make this move happen, because he is a player with ambition. And while, yeah, the ambition was he should have left earlier to play club football, he really wants to play at the World Cup in 2022. That means he has less than a year to get fit and to make sure that Brazil does not freeze him out. So he's got to be in good form, or at least be a useful player getting some kind of minutes. And Aston Villa is where he could do that. And that, I think, leads us back into the issue at hand. With Coutinho off to the Premier League, we're still talking about Torres and his registration. Why is Torres still a word to get registered? Again, depending on when you're watching this. With Aguero's retirement and losing Messi for free, plus pushing most of Griezmann's wages on Atletico this season, it's a reminder just how far Barca had to go to get out of wage trouble, which is different than the debt that affects transfer fee spending. The wage bill is what directly affects which players actually play or not transfer fees. But for anyone paying attention, this registration issue doesn't come out of the blue. It's no surprise, and it's actually pretty predictable that it's turning out this way and that Barca are playing on those small, slim margins. To me, it's actually a compliment to Laporta, Alemany, and company to be able to sign Torres for the fee they did and they get his salary low enough, as in year to year. And going back to talking about amortization, the fact that his contract is long enough that they're able to break up those payments, meaning Torres, in theory, could have potentially been brought under, where players of the past who would have been signed are just making too much in salary per year, and they would have had no hope at all. And the very, very thin silver lining is that this current problem here in January registering might be the worst of this problem. And that problem is obviously what I'm talking about financially. Getting salaries under 97.7 million euros, as Sid Lowe has said a few times, is completely impossible. But I want to remind people of the complicated solution. If you're over the limit in salaries, which Barca are obviously, there is no way to get under 97.7. You must be working on the debt. So your investments are capped at a ratio of 1 to 4, meaning every euro you spend on the squad, you have to save 4. Which may work in the case of Coutinho and Torres now, if Torres' salary is actually that low. The other possibility is that if Coutinho accounts for more than 5% of Barca's limit, they can then reinvest at a 1 to 2 ratio, which is a lot more helpful. Without actually having access to the official numbers, something that the club actually had a statement about today, that no one does have those, it's impossible to do the math ourselves. So we're just left with hypotheticals and trying to understand all the possibilities where business could be done this January. Well, we do know, at least at the time of recording, and it has been reported, that Coutinho was willing to lower his wages 35%, and Aston Villa will pay the other 65%. And that is a big help to Barcelona if that's what Coutinho did on the way out. Now for the other loan, which is entirely different. And with Collado's loan, registering is not an issue and not part of the equation because he was never registered and he was actually hurt by this whole registration issue a few months ago. Collado is finally heading to Granada, which is what we thought for about a month now, but it's finally official. He's been with the club for a few weeks now training, but now they were able to put that paperwork through and he is, for the first time, and I think this makes everybody happy, both Barcelona, Granada, and the players' camp, and the player himself, to have him finally playing first team football. He'll be 23 in April. And as I said, I feel like we've waited long enough to finally see him play that first team ball. Remember, he's only played 2 total matches for Barca's first team. I know, how's that even possible? Missing out on this fall, injuries plus Trincao needing minutes last year, and a more than full squad 2 years ago meant there was never any time for him. And while I'm not usually optimistic about any FC Barcelona loans of any kind, I am a little optimistic about the one with Granada. I like the coaching situation, and I think it's going to help Collado to pair up again with his old teammate in Manchu, who's an occasional starter there in the midfield. Collado could also have a little familiarity with Robert Moreno, who was Luis Enrique's assistant for the Barca first team from 2014 to 2017, so he probably did get at least 1 or 2 glimpses of Collado back then. Granada is a solid mid-table squad, as Barca will see tomorrow, and I think we'll see Collado compete with Antonio Puertas on the right wing for minutes, a battle that I think Collado can win. In that 4-4-2, Moreno doesn't really care too much about his wingers staying wide all the time. He's just looking for some creation and somebody to feed 39-year-old Jorge Molina. My goodness, 39. And Colombian Luis Suarez. If, and I say if, Collado can become the starter, it doesn't even matter, I think, about goals and assists. I think those might even come at first team level. But if he can become a starter and get a ton of minutes, let's say 1,000 minutes in the second half of the season, then I think he could play some kind of role for Barcelona. 1,000 minutes might be a bit too much. Again, he only has half a season to do it, but even if he got 600 or 700, it would definitely be a good start, and it could just be all he needs to shake off that rust and to get comfortable at the level. Xavi did have some nice words to say about him on his way out, about the way he worked hard in training and his future at the club, and honestly, it doesn't hurt Xavi in any way for complimenting a player like that, because he could be using him in the future. You think of minutes that Ilias got this season and some of the ones that went to Easy Abde, Collado likely would have taken those minutes if he had been registered. So I'm not sure if Xavi sees him as a wide winger, which he isn't, or a high interior. But either way, regardless of where Xavi might see him in the summertime, that's 6 months from now, Collado getting to Granada and finally being able to play is the major news here. Don't need to even talk about the money here because Granada will be paying his wages. So good luck to Collado at Granada. Well, at least not good luck to Granada tomorrow, as Barcelona do have a tough task on their hands against the team from Andalusia. It'd be quite helpful, as Barcelona continue to get healthy, to take that squad that is finally getting back on the field, get some 3 points, get some confidence with the regulars, and take that into the Spanish Super Cup against Real Madrid midweek. And until then, as always, Forza Barca.